Company. Now we're going to dive right into our next speaker, who I'm really excited to introduce. So this is Didier Vila. So he is the head of data science at QuantumBlack, which is a company that he'll introduce for us, I'm sure much better than I could, but was acquired by McKinsey in 2015 and originally had their start working with Formula One. So that's quite something. Let's hear it from him himself. Hello, Didier. How are you? Welcome.
Hello, good evening. So thank you so much for your invite. Very excited to be here.
Oh, we're super excited to have you. So if you could introduce yourself quickly and QuantumBlack for the people who might not know it too well yet.
Okay, so I'm Didier Vila. I'm the global head of data science QuantumBlack. I joined QuantumBlack a few months after the acquisition of McKinsey. And essentially at the time we was just 7. And now we are more than 160 data scientists globally across different offices on different continents. So what is it, QuantumBlack? QuantumBlack is one of the analytics arm of McKinsey. So we have the privilege to work with McKinsey hand to hand in order to deliver value for the benefit of our client. More importantly, I will say we have the benefit to deliver impact for our client, but as well, we have the privilege to have access to very great training. And probably for our audience, I would like to remind the dual objective of QuantumBlack and McKinsey here. It is number one, deliver impact for our client. We want to be sure that we improve process, help our client to handle any kind of situations. And the number two, knowing the fact that the audience is almost student, the second objective, a dual objective, it is to grow people. And for that, we have access to the training of McKinsey, and as well, we invest heavily on our data scientists. For example, we give access to 2 academic conferences a year. So the combination of McKinsey training, academic, and technical excellence, it is great for the benefit of our data scientists. And I believe that I have the privilege and the honor to work with 160 talented data scientists worldwide.
And I'm sure a lot of the people watching are aspiring, as you brought up, data scientists and innovators of the future. So for some of those who might want to know exactly from your perspective how you perceive some of these bigger buzzwords, in your mind, how would you define AI, and what value do you think it currently is adding or it could potentially add?
So indeed, artificial intelligence, data science, it's a buzzword. But in a nutshell, I would like to simplify this. So essentially, artificial intelligence is the process to understand the previous behavior, previous pattern, previous information, to structure them in order to make decisions. So this is very, very high level. And for me, there is different aspect here. I do not want that our audience think artificial intelligence, it's very cold. Not at all. I really believe in between the combination of, yes, this kind of new technology from a modeling perspective, from a computing perspective, but as well, the importance of a relationship with the human. Human needs to be at the center of the decisions. And artificial intelligence, it's another tool on the decision process. So I see artificial intelligence just like a subsection of a concept that we love at QuantumBlack, and it is augmented intelligence. We want to combine artificial intelligence plus human expertise, human judgment, in order ultimately to make better decisions.
I think that was a great nutshell to put it in. Hopefully that helped a lot of the people watching now or who might be watching. So let's move to another fun buzzword that we all love, is data science and big data. So how would you put those in perspective? From your point of view, what is it? And what's good about it? Why is it adding value to us?
Okay. As you said, it's another buzzword. And I would like to make some differentiation between these different words. So big data, it is something that's happened, I will say, almost in 2014 to 13, 12, on this range. And it was more a technological word. Let me explain a little bit. And if you don't mind, I would like to use the concept of the pyramid of Maslow. So we need to do in order to do data science, and I will explain later on, artificial intelligence, like I just said, what we want to do it is to have the foundation, the technological foundation from a computing perspective, from a data itself. We want to be sure we have this kind of platform. And then, as another layer of a pyramid of Maslow, if I may say that, we want to use this data in order to address specific questions using this kind of technique. So this is where I think it's very important to make, I would say, a differentiation between technology and data science and artificial intelligence. For me, data science and artificial intelligence are dedicated and focused on value. Big data, I would say, resonate more on the technological side of it. But we need to be careful. As a leader, on any kind of organization, what is important? It is value. And we need to have a two combination between technology and as well data science in order to be successful.
And so you mentioned that as a leader, it's important to be looking for value for your business. And, hopefully that's kind of the name of the game for a lot of businesses. So what do you think is hindering the adoption of these technologies for the businesses that aren't able to adopt or don't see the relevance in it yet?
So I would say on this instance, we should think right now in the middle of the pandemic, or at least at the end of the pandemic, hopefully. I would like to frankly to ask you two questions, two examples. So Serena, if you don't mind, do you like to take transportation at the moment? Do you like to go on to the train?
I think I'll avoid it if I can.
Yeah. Another quick questions. Do you use Note to make any kind of transactions when you do your shopping or you go to the supermarket?
I think it's probably been months since I have.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm the same. So just on this kind of situation with the pandemic, I think we can say that the behavior of everyone changed. And I believe will stay or will become an hybrid. What is interesting here, it is we need to realize, acknowledge that the last almost 5 weeks or 6 weeks of pandemic changed dramatically the behavior of everyone in the society. So there is no question, no barrier at the moment for artificial intelligence. And the simple is the following. It is the digitalization of the economy, not only, I will say, from the behavior of the citizen and consumer, is definitely toward digitalization, but as well, everything lead to this new activity. So yes, there is no barrier. And interestingly enough, during the last 2 months, we saw an increase of acceptance of this digitalization and as well the use of artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow. So actually, we've had previous speakers mention that this pandemic is catalyzing in a lot of ways the adoption of technologies where previously it was kind of like, we might, but we might not. And now it's like, this is what there is. So it's interesting to hear that from this perspective as well. So it'd be interesting now as well, since there is a lot more adoption, to think a little bit about what the implications of wider adoption of AI and big data might be, from an ethical perspective and from a social perspective as well. So a lot of people, I brought up in previous sessions, and somebody asked a question, which I think very much we can just put up here. I'm not sure if you can see it, but they're wondering, I know you've written an article about this, and it would be great if you could talk a little bit about that for the people viewing right now, about the biases inherent to models built, whether that comes from the bias of the person building the model, or whether that comes from, reflecting injustices already in the data. What your thoughts are on bias in models.
Okay, so that's a very good question. So thank you so much, Farid, to raise this question in the middle of all the current event, what's happened around the world. So the positioning for us is very important. First of all, at QuantumBlack, we believe that these questions are critical. And we developed a lot of energy, and we deployed as well a lot of resources to tackle these questions. And the way that we view this situation, in fact, it is, and my answer will be technical and consciously technical, because I want to give a technical perspective to this question. So we see the world in 3 stages, actually. So once we receive the data as a data scientist, we want to be able to measure the potential bias on the data. We want to understand what's the underlying structure. Do we have a bias? And by the way, just by asking this question, it's a difficult one because there is so many measures of bias. It can be made at the individual level. It can be done at the subpopulation level. So even though, from a mathematical standpoint, it's quite complicated. But it's important to measure the different and to assess, if you want, the different directions that is itself contained in the data. And I will say the second step, it is once you construct a model, you want to understand what are the key drivers of the model. Are they related to sensitive attributes, such as the race and the gender? And finally, once you realize that there is a lot of impact within the sensitive attribute, what you want to do it is to correct. And there is a lot of technique to correct. And we are very excited about this kind of new approach to correct bias. But in a nutshell, I hope that I answer this question here. There is no silver bullet. It's very complicated to measure or to select the adequate measure because we have so many. But more importantly, I believe that the overall self-awareness of a data scientist, and not only, so it's the self-awareness of the machine learning, of the data scientist, of the legal counsel, and eventually of the CEO, that will allow us to go forward on this matter. So again, QuantumBlack invests a lot. We take seriously this matter, and I'm very pleased to inform you as well that we publish on this aspect. So very, very critical, in particular in this moment, but it was, it is, and it will be.
And like you mentioned, it's so important for business leaders to stay on top of this. And as a McKinsey company, I'm sure you have a lot of exposure to leaders in different types of businesses and in different fields. Do you feel companies are taking the ethics of data seriously enough, or do you think something can be done to push them to take it a little bit more seriously still?
So with this pandemic, I think that everyone at the C-level, is aware about this kind of situations, because the more and more we have digitization, the more and more this kind of question will remain and will emerge constantly. So on this specific matter, yes, the leaders are aware. The question is we help and support every organization to implement holistic framework, because as I said, it's not only the data scientist as well that is important. The fact, another good example, that we have diverse team that handle this kind of bias have a positive impact of the outcome, because the diversity, the richness of perspective and talent will provide a better answer. So very, very briefly, the leader of today knows we need to support, we need to help them, and this is what QuantumBlack is doing, and our data scientists doing in a daily basis, for the benefit not only of the organization, the reputation of the organization, but as well, ultimately, the benefit of a society.
And you mentioned just now that it's a team that, as a collective, a QuantumBlack, you have to work for. So I imagine the talent and the people making up QuantumBlack are crucial to helping you deliver your mission and carry out your mission. And I wonder, in terms of talent, if you could say a quick word, because we heard earlier from Diana Bain that talent in her mind is really important. And she had some thoughts as to the skills gap versus the automation of certain jobs. And I'm wondering what your perspective is on that.
So I would like to focus a little bit on the gap, but By the way, just to be clear, are we talking about the gap at the society level, or we talk about at the organizational level?
Well, I suppose either would be interesting, but I was referring more to the fact that a lot of companies seem to be lacking the talent that they want to fill the roles that they need. But then there's also people concerned about how to upskill themselves to find, this kind of job.
Okay, so I will say there is two questions here. So let's think macro, and then let's do this at the micro individual level. So at the macro level, I think that school, university, every actor of the education system in this country and globally should be involved. So the school, we should provide a minimum training in artificial intelligence and eventually programming. School and the university need to be as well robust. Regardless if you do a PhD in philosophy, it's good to know the basics of artificial intelligence and as well a minimum of coding. The government needs to play a key role here, and I believe that there is fantastic agency in this government. For example, the chair for data analytics do AI barometer on a monthly basis, and this is a very good sign that we are on the top of the curve, I would say. Consulting company like QuantumBlack, we provide guidance as well to the overall actor. We are massively involved supporting different initiatives by training young students, and we are active member of a Girl Code First initiative. Big giant need as well to provide visibility of a need. So I will say in a nutshell, on the macro level, every actor need to be involved in order to address the shortage of skills in AI and computing. So if you don't mind, I will go to the second question at the micro level, at the individual level. I think at the moment, we have a privilege in some extent to have access to so many knowledge, so many training, so many courses from home. And this is almost the responsibility of everyone to leverage this opportunity despite these circumstances. So if you see different organizations that provide training online, you can learn so many things online. You can learn data science, you can learn programming, you can learn boxing. I took recently online boxing training to give you just a flavor of the different opportunity. But ultimately, that's the responsibility of the individual that needs to be fully integrated on the macro approach, where every big actor have an act to play.
And this is going to move a little bit away, but somebody here has asked a question, if you're happy to answer it, in the comments.
Please fire away.
Where they asked about the difference between... Okay, I'll just put it up right here and everyone can read it together. But he's basically asked about whether you feel that the UK is too private, whether British people are too private with their data versus this person's experience in India, where data privacy didn't seem to be as important. And they followed this up. I won't put it up, but they followed this up by asking, do you think that this protectiveness is slowing down progress, or do you think they're right to be wary?
Okay, this is probably a sociological question. And if you don't mind, I would like to reshift this question from a data science perspective. Mm-hmm. And essentially, from a technical standpoint, what is important for us is this transparency. I'm not a legislator, but what is important is to provide transparency and explainability to everyone in the society. Mm-hmm. We want to know that why, for example, decision of credit, we are in the Fintech society, why your decision of credit limit have been increased or not, why you have access to a loan or not. So I will reshift, if you want, these sociological questions with a more a transparency and explainability topic. And this is where we invest a lot of energy, a lot of resources on our side in QuantumBlack with our R&D and QB Lab team. We want to support our clients to make decisions that they are transparent, that easy to explain, and that easy to communicate it to the individual.
Thank you for your answer. I think that's probably really interesting, and I hope that, Ethan, that answered your question. Sorry, I appear to be having some connectivity problems. Hopefully everyone can still hear me. But yeah, thank you, Ethan, for your question. And if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll try to answer the ones that we can. But moving on, relating to the institutions. So this is more about what institutions are doing in your perspective on institution right now. But, we've been talking today earlier about contact tracing and using that to, fight the pandemic. Do you feel that institutions are just now catching on to the applicability of, data in this way? And do you think this is like a lasting change? Or do you think institutions have been using data this way and we're just now coming to find out about it? What are your thoughts, I suppose?
So for me, as I said, when I introduced the concept of augmented intelligence and as well combined with the exponential factor of the pandemic, the data will become critical to make any kind of decision. And the answer is yes, we're going toward a world fully digitalized and driven by data process. And I would like to refer on this kind of question on a recent paper been published by Mckinsey. And by the way, it's accessible to everyone. So I encourage everyone, the audience, to read this. And we identify 4 direction of travel. So the number one, it is because now the society is fully digitalized, we need to put our energy to understand the customer expectation. The number 2, it is to update it, our mathematical model on this new normal, because keep in mind that before it was not necessarily the case. Now we are in a new normal, so we need to integrate this new pattern. Number 3, and this is probably related to your big data questions, we need to be sure that every organization have the system, the technology, the data landscape, and platform to address this amount of data that are emerging, like a tsunami during the post-COVID-19. And finally, is the culture of any kind of organization need to change in order to be sure that we can work remote and that we're sure that we have a data-driven approach, leveraging the multidisciplinarity of teams. So the short answer is yes, and we're accelerating this process of thinking and working.
Okay, that's interesting. And on the topic of multidisciplinarity of the teams, and of the talent, a lot of the people watching are students. And so as we are coming up onto the end of the session, I'd love for you to share your thoughts on joining a firm like QuantumBlack versus joining, I guess, something that's more of a startup versus joining, a huger, sort of tech type. Like, what are your thoughts on the scale and the types of career paths you can find, the advice you'd give to students?
So, Serena, that's another good question. I'm not here to make any kind of judgment in career. What is important for me is to pass the following message. I invite every student to do what they like. And every kind of career path or initial job have some pros and cons. Okay? But more importantly, you need to, when you make such a decision, you need to discern and you need to think carefully. You need to engage with probably senior people who have more experience that will help you to identify the pros and cons of any kind of situation. If you go into a startup, if you go into QuantumBlack, or if you go into a giant tech, or if you go into an organization that accelerating its digitalization path. But I can talk about QuantumBlack. So as a personal view. So first of all, in QuantumBlack, as I said, you have the opportunity to work with so many problems so many industry. So in 2 years, you will have a chance to do probably 6-7 projects, depending the duration of a project. You will have a chance to tackle and apply the latest methodology that we identify in academic conferences, such as ICML, such as NERITS. And you will have a chance to work with talented people. I'm frankly honored and I have a privilege to work with such talented a group of data scientists, literally, because everybody brings something to the table based on their background, based on their experience, based on their research. So that's quite amazing. And as I said initially, you will have access to some McKinsey training that they are quite unique, have been developed during the last 90 years. So the combination of leadership, communication, project diversity, combined with technical excellence and R&D and innovation, as I say, transparency, ethic, explainability, fairness, will provide you a full, complete spectrum of skill when you will work with us after 3-4 years. So that's the pro and the way to see and to help our data scientists to grow. You know, there is a Latin expression that I like, is magis, is the more, is the plus. So we definitely implement the magis at QuantumBlack. Serena,
My apologies. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Am I audible now? My
yes,
connection is just doing some exciting things to me. Sorry about that. Okay, well, I think a lot of people are definitely happy to hear about magis. They, increased their Latin vocabulary for today. And they'll definitely be happy to hear the message that I heard in the beginning of do what you like. So hopefully a lot of people will, enjoy this culture that you seem to have around yourself and will hopefully aim to work at QuantumBlack one day or just look forward to the exciting things you do. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to hear more from you at UCL Fintech over the academic year. We hope to see you again. Thank you so much for being here, Didier.
Serena, thank you so much. It looks like that we had some connection issue at the end, but it was a real pleasure. Thank you very much for the invite. And I invite again the audience to contact us. We are hiring and we're looking forward to have a chat with you guys. Everyone, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for being here.